Hi friends, this is Pastor Nathan Decker with your Better Together devotion for this week, and this week I'm calling on us all to issue out a vote, a consensus, to come together as a force because we need to impeach Jesus. That's right, I said we need to impeach Jesus. He isn't living up to the image of our Messiah warrior that we want him to be. I mean, he seems to be more interested in the poor and the lame than the strong and the brave. When we crown Jesus king, we want him to be a gun-toting Rambo rabbi who has a big American flag tattooed on his shoulder and a big heart with mom on his other shoulder. We want him to be tough. We don't want a weakling who's hanging on a cross, who doesn't last a whole day of torture, who gives up. We need to impeach Jesus. Now, while I'm not sure about the political process that's going on right now, I do know for a fact that we often act as Christians as if that's what we're trying to do. We often act as if the power that God has and the power that God is sharing means nothing to us. We often act as though Jesus isn't important in our faith. We take the power from him. We impeach him. The reality is that we're not the only ones who have done this, though. In the Gospel of Mark, when Jesus gathers his disciples around and he asks them, "Who do people say that I am?" that they throw out all kinds of rock star prophets. You're Elijah risen from the dead. Maybe you're John the Baptizer, all again. And then Peter comes with that wonderful summation that says, "You are the Christ. You are the Messiah." And everybody's excited because Jesus himself is excited. He says, "Upon this rock, I will build my church." This is what it's about. And then Jesus goes on to describe what it means to be the Christ. We're going to Jerusalem. I'm going to be killed. On the third day, I'll rise from the dead. And at that point, the disciples, especially Peter, try to have an impeachment. No, Jesus. This is not the Messiah that we signed up for. This is not the Christ that we're following. This isn't how it's supposed to be, Jesus. And Peter gets called by Jesus Satan. Satan. Jesus tells Peter basically, in a single sentence, "You're trying for power, and that's not what I'm about." We in the church need to hear these words and to focus. It's during this fateful moment that we learn the lesson of who Jesus is and what Jesus truly is about. Too many times we in the church, we want to take power. We want to use power. We want to have a religious right or left and describe ourselves in those kinds of labels of Democrat and liberal and Republican and conservative. That's not at all what Jesus is about. Jesus is instead about having us come together and experience God's kingdom. Not our kingdom, not our nation, not our way, but God's way. To follow Jesus is to be a servant. If we are disciples, we're called to do that, to follow Jesus. If we're disciples, we keep following Jesus' vision, Jesus' way of understanding, and Jesus' path for life. There was an American scientist who once said, "Leadership is about vision and responsibility, not power." His name was Seth Berkley. Leadership is about vision and responsibility, not power. If we really want to be leading people to Christ, we need to show them not the power, not the way that we can manipulate elections or force people to do what we want them to do, but we need to show them the vision of heaven. We need to show them the responsibility of being a people who own up to our mistakes and live into forgiveness. As Jesus himself said in Matthew 22:29, "You are wrong because you don't know the scriptures or God's power." Because the scriptures and God's power are about sharing and inviting and being exciting about this whole notion of kingdom, not elections or power. Go with God this week, my friends, and whatever happens in our country, just know that God is with us God is for humanity, all of humanity, and that we will find the way if we follow Christ. Amen.